Well, first of all, I think it's very gracious of you all to have me come back since I just disappeared on Monday. And I got a chance to come back on quickly. I couldn't stay past that time, but I saw Jonah picked it right up with stories. So I'm gonna start with a story for you all. I'm gonna take very little time, but I think that for Ubuntu, which means I am because we are, that's something that I was trained as a young person just to believe that. My own mentors when I was a young leader was always telling me how important it was that we had safe communities to express ourselves and explore ideas and exchange ideas, learn how to care about each other. So I grew up that way. So Ubuntu, I am because we are. I can clearly say that who I am was very much shaped by how I was able to be invited and contribute to a community of young people and intergenerational as well. So it one of the main seven core assumptions of restorative justice is that the world is profoundly interconnected. And I think there's an invitation for you to think about how is it that you're interconnected with each other. I've sometimes heard simple things like, if I enforce this rule with my students, but my colleagues don't, that's impacting on how the students respond to me when I ask them to take their hat off, or something simple like that. So our behaviors do have an impact on others other than ourselves. And I think we all know that. The other way that we're interconnected too is, that a culture where you have trusted colleagues, where you can ask for help, where you can offer help, where you're valued for your contribution, makes that workplace a much more rewarding experience for you. So we all know how adults can support each other. I think sometimes most of us are clear about how we influence the behavior of our young people, and a little frustrated when we sometimes don't see their behavior as that mirror of, haven't I taught you? How many times have we had this conversation? But we expect that our jobs are basically, we're supposed to have a positive impact on young people, and we're trained to do that as best we can. I wonder those magical moments where we have a time where I became something because a young person was being a certain way. In other words, it's a mutual. As I benefit from as the young person benefits from relating to me, I'm also benefiting from relating to that young person. And so I'll tell you a short story. I work at Ramapo for children, and in the summertime, I'm out at the camp. And I was at camp for about 5 years before I would actually go out and interact with the campers. I was there usually 1 or 2 days a week, and I would be with staff all day long, doing counselor development and supervision development. But I shied away from the young people because I wasn't trained in working with young people who were autistic. So I really, I shied away. I didn't really know how to interact. I copped out, in other words. And then one year I finally said, there's something off about that. One is I can observe the young people, the counselors who are working with kids on the spectrum, and some of them rather severely. In other words, there are a lot of young people at camp who are not verbal. They don't speak, and they're very communicative, but they're not verbal. So I always felt like I admired the staff who were effective with them and who had great relationships with them, but I hadn't had that experience myself. So one day I was walking around the grounds, just getting from one place to the other, and I noticed there was a young man, young boy, he probably was about 14 years old, and he was very, very upset. And his behavior was just very clearly, he was upset. He wasn't able to articulate himself verbally. And what I noticed, it's that some of the staff were actually afraid of him, like they were moving away from him, like, oh, he starts to hit and he starts to kick and he's big and he hurts. And so they were moving away, which kind of surprised me. But that's what they were doing. And so here I was, and I was determined I was going to have some kind of impact, even though I didn't know what to do. So just went, I didn't go very close because he didn't know me. And I felt like he would probably be more alarmed if I came close. But I would take a few steps towards him and then see how he was responding to it. And if I felt like he was okay, I'd maybe take a little closer step. And so I just kept saying to him, "Oh, you are upset, and I feel so bad that you're upset. I don't. I wish I knew what you needed. I don't, but you're very, very upset, and I really am feeling that. And all I could really do is just let him know that I was feeling him. I wasn't confident that I knew exactly what he felt, but I just kept saying that and staying in communication. So he wasn't running away from me. So I said, I guess I'm doing a little bit something that's working for him. And at one point, I thought we were establishing a rapport. So I started to sing because I'm a singer. Well, he started to get upset with that. So I stopped right away. Like the singing's not going to work for him. And but I really had to like tune in with me and with him and give myself permission because my intention was good. And here's how the work is interconnected. I never felt like I met his needs, but because I stayed present, one of the counselors came along who really is very good with that young person. He kind of came out of nowhere and he was able to come up to the young man and calm him down and get a sense of what he needed. And I felt like in that way we were interconnected, that I stopped, I was present. And you know what that did for me? It was like I needed to be in the community. I needed that young person in my community. It wasn't enough that I was there and I was interacting just with the counselors on just this day or that day. There was a whole community of human beings who I had no opportunity um, to learn something from them and to have my own life enriched by relating to them. And so on that one day, that sort of opened something else for me. And I become an expert with young people who are on the spectrum? Not by any means, but I do know this, that I know how I'm confident that that young man and I were in relationship with each other, and he was calming me down and getting me grounded, and I was not letting him be alone. So that's Ubuntu. I am because we are.
Thank you, Yaniyah. That was a beautiful story. As you were talking, I was thinking about, my own personal experiences that have been similar. And I never really thought of it that way, the way that you described. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Right.